Hello, hello, hello. This is Attorney Mike Revan coming to you from Chicago. As usual, today we've got a wild one. We've got the whole trial. It's a DUI. It's in front of Judge Washington. It was sent to me by Denise Ropan. I hope I'm saying that right. She got me onto this. I don't know how I crammed it into the day, but there it is. We've got a 911 call. We've got a whole situation. It's good stuff. Let's get the party started. And for those of you, I threw the glue clip on the front. For those of you who aren't familiar with Judge Washington, this is her room.
Yeah. Without getting into further detail, there were drugs involved that people were giving to me that ended up being glue. Like I smoked some glue and stuff. I thought I was smoking crack and...
All right, it's my understanding that we're having a trial in the Christina Alexander case. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure. That's my understanding, Judge.
All right, and are we ready to proceed?
People are prepared. Defense is ready.
All right. The court will call the case of the... Wait, the court needs to get ready. I need my pad of paper. 1 second, please.
Judge is cute. She does that once in a while. She's all stern and serious, but once in a while you see her. All
right. The court will call the case of the State of Michigan versus Christina Alexander, case number 22S00273.
Kyle Bedell for the people. Andrew Bannis with on behalf of Christina Alexander. Christina, please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. It's Christina Alexander.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Alexander.
Your Honor, I think we're proceeding to trial. I would like to make a very brief opening statement when appropriate.
You're welcome. Thank you. It is time for opening arguments. Mr. Burdell?
Your Honor, the people waive opening if there's no objection.
Your Honor, well, definitely no objection. I will just say simply that, Your Honor, I believe the evidence will clearly show that my client was the passenger in the vehicle, and in addition, she will be testifying in her defense. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Burdell.
Judge, people call Trooper Riom.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good afternoon, Trooper Riom. This is Judge Washington. Can you see me?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may lower your hand. You may proceed, Mr. Burdell.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Trooper. Would you please state your name for the record?
First name is Zachary. Last name is Riom.
And is it Riom? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I want to get it right. Okay, so what is your occupation?
I'm a state trooper with the Michigan State Police.
And how long have you been so employed by Michigan State Police?
Approximately 7 years.
And did you have prior law enforcement experience before joining MSP?
No, sir, just military.
Okay, what was your military experience?
I was a maritime enforcement specialist in the United States Coast Guard.
Okay. So I'm not familiar with that rank and that role. Is that sort of a military police rank, or is that more technical in the maritime?
More military police.
Okay. And how long did you serve in that capacity?
7 years.
Okay. So about 14 years then by my math in enforcement and policing generally?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, were you working on December 12th of 2021?
Yes.
And what were your duties on that day?
Road patrol.
All right. And now, do you have any experience with in detecting intoxicated drivers?
Yes.
And could you please describe that training?
I received training in the Michigan State Police Academy as far as conducting standardized field sobriety tests, as well as attending A-RIDE training after I graduated the academy.
All right. And any other further advanced training beyond the A-RIDE?
No, sir.
Okay. And approximately in your term as a state trooper, and perhaps even as an MP, approximately how many times have you stopped a driver you believed to be intoxicated?
If I had to put a number on it, I would say 200 times.
Okay. And Do you address, excuse me, do you arrest everybody who you initially believed to be intoxicated?
No.
Why not?
It's based on the probable cause that I see at the time, depending on the driver's actions, what I'm seeing, what they're exhibiting as far as slurred speech, their eyes are glossy, and then obviously the standardized field sobriety test after that.
Okay. And roughly how many times have you arrested somebody for driving while intoxicated?
I would say maybe 100 times.
So about half? Am I
About
math?
half. Yeah.
All right. Not great at math, but those kind of numbers I can handle.
There you go.
So what do you base when you do make the arrest, what do you base that on?
The probable cause of everything that I see. So obviously when I first make contact with the driver, I want to see everything, as far as where they're going, where they've been. Based on that initial interaction, what I see, the smell of intoxicants, their eyes are bloodshot or glossy, they're slurring their speech, they can't locate items within the car, then I would ask them to step out of the vehicle and then conduct my standardized field sobriety test, starting with nystagmus, working my way down to the walk and turn, then the one-leg stand. And then based on the clues that I see and the indicators that I'm given, that will determine whether or not an arrest needs to be made.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about your actions on this date, on 12/12/21. So did you come in contact with Christina Alexander?
I did.
Do you see her on the call today?
I do.
Would you please describe her clothing and I suppose you can't point to her.
She's up in the right-hand corner of my screen, wearing, I believe, a brown or a maroon shirt and black glasses with the rims.
And is there a name on her picture?
Yes, sir, and it states Christina Alexander.
Your Honor, may the record please reflect the identification of the defendant.
No objection.
The record shall reflect.
Thank you, Mr. Banas. Thank you, Judge. So where were you when you first came into contact with the defendant?
When I first came in contact with the defendant, I believe she was at a gas station or something like that.
Okay. And do you recall approximately what time?
I don't recall.
Okay. If you were to look at your report, would that reflect your recollection? Would that refresh your recollection, rather?
It would, unfortunately, sir, due to the fact that I left the post and now working for an MJTF, I don't have access to the report, so I wasn't able to print it out.
Okay. I'm going to email it to you really quickly.
Okay.
However, I can move on. Do you remember if it was early morning, late at night?
I believe it was early morning due to the fact that it was still dark outside, and I work day shift, so it had to have been in the morning.
Okay.
If it's helpful, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Burdell. Defense will stipulate that, field sobriety tests were administered at approximately 7:12 a.m. So first contact was definitely before that when it was dark.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Banas. That is helpful.
I did speed this up for a little bit, and then it goes back to normal speed when we get to the 911 call, which is fantastic.
So now, when you made contact, I believe you said you made contact at a gas station, correct?
Yes, in initial contact, if I remember correctly, she was in the back of a HVA ambulance.
Okay. And were you alone at the time, or did you have a partner?
I was alone.
Were you in uniform?
I was.
Sort of the standard MSP blues with a big flat hat?
Yes, we wear a hat, our uniform, and then a fully marked patrol car.
You said it was a marked patrol car or unmarked?
Fully marked patrol
Fully
car.
marked. Okay, thank you. Now, what did you observe about the defendant when you first came across her, when you first made contact?
Initial contact was her speech was slurred, and she didn't make a whole lot of sense as to what she was explaining to me regarding the crash and how it happened.
Okay. What do you could you elaborate on what do you mean by that?
I think it was further on into my investigation, but it just, if I'm to elaborate, I can't recall exactly, but again, what she was saying didn't add up, and her speech was just extremely slurred to the point where I almost couldn't understand her.
Okay. So when you came upon the defendant, did you ask for her license, registration, proof of insurance, the necessary documents?
I believe so, yes.
And was she able to produce these for you?
I do not recall.
Okay. I emailed you a copy of the report. Have you received it?
Let me check. Am I allowed to check?
If it would help refresh your recollection, then yes.
Okay.
Any objection, Mr. Banas?
No, I am actually hoping that the trooper can review the police report because I'll have some questions about it.
Your Honor, yeah, perhaps this would be, I mean, it's a pretty quick report. Perhaps this would be a good time for Trooper Reamer just to sort of read through the whole thing.
Yes, it would be.
Okay. That way we can refresh the whole thing a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, I read the report.
Okay, thank you. Is your recollection successfully refreshed?
Yes, and based on the previous question you had asked, it appears that I had asked her for her driver's license when I made initial contact.
Okay. And was she able to produce this item for you?
According to my report, yes.
Okay. Were you, did you also ask for proof of insurance and registration as well?
I do not recall, as it is not documented in my report.
Okay. Was she able to produce those items for you without trouble, or was there anything you noticed about when she was bringing these items out, the driver's license out for you?
I believe she was confused when she got her card out, but again,
Okay.
I don't recall.
Okay. Now, how close were you standing? I believe you said that she was in the back of an HVA rig when you first made contact.
Yes.
Is that where this interview took place?
The initial interview, yes, and I was inside of the rig. I climbed up inside.
Okay. How far away from the defendant were you during this time?
I was relatively close, approximately 3 to 5 feet away.
So just, I guess, sort of just out of arm length, I guess?
Yes, there's not very much room in the back of those.
Okay. And were you able to smell anything while you were in the back of the rig?
I believe I was able to smell the odor of intoxicants.
And where was that coming from?
It was emanating from her person.
Okay. And during this initial contact, did the defendant say anything to you?
I don't recall.
Okay. We're looking at your report. Reflect your recollection? Refresh your recollection? Okay.
Yes.
And let me know when you're
I'm reviewing my report.
okay. Let me know when your recollection is refreshed.
Okay. Okay, it's refreshed.
Okay. Now, during this initial contact, did the defendant say anything to you?
She had said that she had left a local bar where she had drank 2 tequila sunrises and she had left with a black male, crashed her car.
Was she able to describe anything else about his appearance?
She was able to describe nothing, how tall he was, anything.
Was she able to give a name?
Nothing.
Okay. Now, when talking about this, and where so she said, I believe you said she left the bar with this gentleman?
She stated that he was driving her car.
Okay. And now, at any point, was she able to give you more details about his appearance?
No.
At any time, was she able to tell you about his height at all?
No.
Okay. Anytime later in the evening, or later in the conversation, was she able to give you more details about his height?
Yes, I believe that he was around my height. Later
Okay,
on in the interview, she explained that to me.
Okay. Thank you. Now, so during your interview with the defendant, could you describe her speech?
I was thinking the same thing.
It was slurred.
Okay. And could you describe how her eyes looked at the time?
They were bloodshot and glossy.
All right. What about her face? How did that appear?
I don't recall.
Okay. Would looking at your report help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Thank you. You know, if I may, while the trooper's refreshing, if I may just step away for just a moment.
You may.
Just a matter of...
All right, sir, I'm refreshed and I still don't recall anything about her face.
Okay, thank you. Would you describe her as being responsive to your questioning?
Somewhat. She answered the questions that I asked.
Okay. What do you mean by somewhat?
Again, when I would ask questions as far as who was driving your car and you can't give me an answer as to anything other than they're slightly taller than me and that they're a black male, yes, you're answering my question, but no, you're not really answering my question.
Okay. Did you seem to have difficulty understanding your questioning?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. Did you have to repeat yourself?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay. Now, did you ask the defendant to perform field sobriety tests?
I did.
Why?
Because based on the evidence that I had seen, one would believe that she was under the influence of some controlled substance, alcohol, or liquor.
Okay. Now, let's go back a little bit. So why were you initially dispatched to the scene?
I was initially dispatched to the scene for a crash.
Okay. And did you go to the location of the crash first or to the location of where you spoke to the defendant?
Due to the location of the crash and where I was in proximity to it, I had to drive by the crash, but I just simply drove by it and went to the location where Miss Alexander was.
Okay. Now, where was the crash?
It was in, I believe the proper term is the gore or the ditch. If you're heading eastbound on I-94 in the off-ramp to Rawsonville, between 94 and Rawsonville Road, there is a patch of grassy, wooded area, and that's where the vehicle was at.
Okay. And was this in Ypsilanti Township?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Thank you. And when you drove past it, was there anybody in the vehicle at that time?
Again, I drove past it, hit it with my spotlights, but I did not see anybody in the vehicle, no.
Okay. And from there, you went to the gas station, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. So,
I'm
back to
sorry,
the,
did you say it was eastbound or westbound?
I believe it was eastbound 94 in Rawsonville Road.
Thank you.
thank you. Now, have you had
Wait, now that's cool. We've got a lawyer who's going to be in front of Judge Manning. We'll be looking for you. Or Gina Edwards. Everybody keep a lookout. That'll be fun.
training in administering the field sobriety tests?
I have.
All right. And was that the AROD training?
Initial training and standardized field sobriety tests were given at the Michigan State Police Academy.
Okay. And then did you have further, so the AROD training is further training on field sobriety tests and OWI related incidents,
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is,
It's just advanced recognition utilizing the modified Romberg, lack of nystagmus to detect marijuana or other things.
okay. Thank you. Now, approximately how many times have you administered field sobriety tests?
Again, I've stopped cars roughly 200 times to believe that somebody's under the influence, so roughly 200 times.
Okay, thank you. And what is the, this may sound sort of like an obvious question, but what is the purpose of doing those standardized field sobriety tests?
To determine the level of intoxication or determine if somebody's intoxicated.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with the term divided attention skills?
No, I'm not.
Okay. What about divided attention test?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Riddell, I'm sorry to interrupt, and you may reject this, but I'm just saying that the defense will stipulate to any failed field sobriety test and the blood alcohol content. The defense here is that my client was not driving; she was a passenger. Thank you, sir.
And I'll say that I'm very familiar with the ARIGHT training and what the standard field sobriety tests are.
Okay. Thank you. I'll move ahead a little bit then.
That is fantastic. Very professional. I think this one's a strange one. You might be surprised when it ends, but I think the attorneys both do a really good job. That's very professional. He's saying, look, you're trying to prove up a bunch of stuff that I'm not disputing. Let's all move along. She failed some field sobriety tests. Fine. Our defense is she wasn't driving.
So where did you conduct the field sobriety tests?
In the parking lot of the gas station in front of my patrol car.
And what was the condition at the time of the service?
I believe it was dry, stable, flat platform.
Now, was it in the gas station parking lot then?
Yes.
We'll be good to our friends.
Do you remember the weather that day?
I believe it was cold, but I also believe that it was dry.
Okay. Do you recall if there was snow on the ground?
I do not recall.
Okay. And which field sobriety tests did you request that the defendant perform?
The walk and turn, the one leg stand, and then I checked for HGN.
Okay. And how many clues did she exhibit on the HGN?
I'd have to refer back to my report.
Would it help refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please let me know when you have your, unless there's an objection, please let me know when your recollection is refreshed.
Okay.
There's no objection, but it may be efficient just to get the lab report into evidence at this point.
Well, I understand. I do want to just at least get just the number of clues and the number of things. I'll not linger on it, but I do need to get that evidence, just the numbers in.
I think Mr. Bannis is stipulating that she failed the standard
Okay.
field sobriety test. That's not the issue before the court. I think the issue is whether or not she was driving.
Okay.
Move it along.
Is that correct, Mr. Bannis?
That is definitely correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Understood, Your Honor. Then
And
thank
we've
you.
already stipulated to admission of the MSP lab report.
Okay.
And how many of the, I guess failed is not the word because it's not a pass fail, but
BAC .161.
okay.
And well, in that case, Your Honor, since we are on that subject, the people move at this time then to admit and publish the stipulated MSP lab report, which has been previously emailed to Your Honor.
0.161.
You know, I'd like to confirm. That's what I have in my notes. Mr. Riddell, do you have it?
Yes, that's my that's the amount that I have as well, is 0.161.
Okay, no objection to admission of
That's
that
the
as
defense.
stipulated.
Thank you.
But
I guess I'm just a little confused as to whether or not I'm giving the clues.
No, we're gonna just move on.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
So I believe you described that the defendant claimed that she was the passenger, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And
Now that is the question, isn't it, Jane?
did the defendant state what she did immediately following the crash?
She did.
And what was that? What did she state she did?
She got into the driver's seat and tried to get the car out of the ditch where the vehicle was crashed.
Okay. And did she say,
You know, after a couple tequila sunrises, you might think you're in a Tesla too, you know?
So she got into the driver's seat and attempted to move the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Was she able to move the vehicle?
No.
All right. Did she say why?
I don't recall. Again, I'd have to refer back to my report.
Would that help refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please let me know when your memory is successfully refreshed.
All right. My memory is refreshed. She explained that she got into the car to try and drive it away.
Okay. And did she say, so you said she tried to drive the vehicle away, but was unable to?
Yes.
Did she say why she was unable to?
She did not.
Okay. Now, did you at any point go to the location of the vehicle?
I did.
And please describe the car you observed and where it was.
It was a gray, small four-door sedan, and it was approximately 50 to 100 feet off the road into some trees and brush.
And was that in the, I believe you previously described it as sort of being off that Rawsonville exit there?
Yes.
Okay. And is that where you found the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you attempt to move the vehicle?
No.
Okay. Now, were you able to, did you enter the vehicle at any point?
I did. I actually asked the tow truck driver once the vehicle was loaded up onto the back of the tow truck to bring it up to my location where my patrol car was parked after Ms. Alexander was already placed in handcuffs. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to enter the vehicle to see how close the seat was in proximity to the steering wheel.
And what did you, I'm sorry, continue.
And the reason I was doing that is because she explained that the passenger who was driving was roughly my height or slightly taller. And the reason I did that, I wanted to see how close it was. And I tried to get in, and I would not have been able to drive that vehicle.
And why would you not have been able to drive it?
Because the seat was too close to the steering wheel. So it indicated that somebody of smaller stature, much shorter than me, was driving.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
And how tall is Miss Alexander?
I don't know precisely, but much shorter than I am.
Would consulting your report help reflect your would it help refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you please consult your report and let me know when your recollection is successfully refreshed?
All right. It is refreshed, and her height is 5'1".
Okay. Thank you.
And that is according to Michigan Secretary of State on her driver's license.
And does that 5'1" height, does that sort of conform with your recollection of Miss Alexander?
Yes.
Okay. And is that based on your knowledge and you're driving a car? Is that seating position consistent with somebody of Miss Alexander's height driving a car?
Yes.
Now, are you aware that the defendant called 911?
I am.
Right. And have you had an opportunity to listen to the 911 call?
Yes, I have.
And can you identify the caller who made that call?
Yes, I can.
All right. And so just for the record, so there are, I believe, several people that called 911. I believe it's the third caller who calls at 2:25 to the end. How did you identify that caller?
At one point, I recognized her voice, you could say, but two, at one point during the dispatch call, she was asked to give her name, and she
Objection.
did.
I'm sorry, the trooper is testifying to the content of a 911 call that is not yet admitted into evidence.
So, Your Honor, this is too late.
I don't think the trooper was the person who received the call, so I don't think he's the proper person to authenticate this call. Thank you.
So, Your Honor, I do intend to bring in Mr. Benz to testify to lay the rest of the foundation. This is just for the identification of the caller at this point, which is based on, it will be defendant statements.
So, Mr. Bannis, I don't know if your objection is that because the call hasn't been authenticated, that he can't testify as to what he heard. Do you want us to recall the Trooper Ream to do that?
Your Honor, I guess my position is if the people have someone who can properly authenticate the call who are present today, then we can move this along and I don't object to its admission as an exhibit. If they don't have someone who can properly authenticate the call, then I object.
Operator Cody Benz is identified on my screen here as being present.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry, Your Honor, go ahead.
I just need to understand what Mr. Bannis is requesting, because he gets to ask questions from Trooper Ream as to the statement. If that's, I'm not certain what your objection is right now.
Well, maybe I need to back up. The prosecutor seems to be questioning the trooper about a 911 call, which the trooper had no involvement with. So it sounds like it's possibly hearsay, or I don't know why the prosecutor is asking the trooper about a 911 call that the trooper had no connection with. So I think my objection is hearsay, because it sounds like the prosecutor is asking the trooper to testify to a 911 call for which he had no participation in. But again, if there's someone who can testify and authenticate the 911 call, I have no objection to its admission as exhibit, but I don't think the trooper is the proper person for that.
Mr. Perdell?
So it is not hearsay because he's testifying to defendant statements. And so I guess if I'm just simply asking her to identify Ms. Alexander as the caller, he can testify as to what he heard. And I guess Mr. Banis.
Are you saying that this is a statement against the defendant's interest and you're trying to admit it based on that hearsay exception or an admission?
Both, Your Honor.
All right. And I have
it's a statement by a party. It's a party statement.
Statement by a party opponent.
That's the objection I want to rule on. So I'm going to ask you if that's what your objection is. That's funny.
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
But that statement was not made to the trooper.
Well,
so this is not like, the trooper takes a statement at the scene, which would be a party admission. This is some alleged statement at a 911 call. So again, call the dispatch operator to establish the foundation, and then the 911 call can be admitted into evidence. But the trooper is not the person who took the statement.
He's right. I don't mean to turn this into CLE, but an admission against interest might be an exception to hearsay, but he wasn't the one to accept the admission, so he can't testify to it. That doesn't make sense.
So he can't. So
I think he's correct about that.
Okay, and Your Honor, I do have Mr. Benz here. All I was trying to do with the trooper Rium is to identify the sound of her voice, but I can call him back and recall him later if we want to bring in Mr. Benz to testify, which I'm prepared to do right now.
All right. So we'll have Mr. Benz come in and authenticate the actual call, and then Trooper Williams can, if he can, identify the voice as that of Ms. Alexander, if that's still needed. All right.
Thank you, Judge. No further questions for Trooper Rium at this point.
All right. Your witness, Mr. Banis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Trooper Rium, thank you for being here today. First of all,
Brooks when you need him.
I am going to ask you probably two sets of questions. First, about your involvement responding to the incident, and then your interaction with my client. I promise you I'm not trying to catch you in anything. I'm just trying to ask you questions about what actually happened, okay?
Yep.
Here we go. So on December 12, 2021, you were dispatched to I-94 at or near Rossonville Road for a vehicle crash, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And upon your arrival, you first observed the vehicle in a ditch on the exit ramp. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you didn't stop then, but you proceeded to the gas station where my client was, right?
I didn't stop, no, per se, as to stop and visibly walk down to the vehicle, but I did slow down enough to turn my light on, my spotlight on the vehicle to see if there was anybody in the car, and then continued on to where the driver was.
Okay. And, I've already said, I stipulate that you started administering the field sobriety test at approximately 7:12 a.m. based on your police report. So what time do you think you arrived at when you first arrived at the vehicle crash on the exit ramp, if you remember?
I don't recall.
Do you remember if it was dark or light? I'm suggesting it was dark, but I'm asking you.
Yep, as I previously stated, it was dark.
Okay. So maybe 5 a.m., but if you know?
It couldn't have been 5 a.m. because my shift is not starting until 6. So
Okay.
it would have to be somewhere after 6 o'clock.
Okay, so probably between 6 and 7 a.m. then?
Correct.
Okay. After the field sobriety test, you administered a PBT, correct?
Yes.
And this was at the gas station, right, where my client called from where my client called 911, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You informed Ms. Alexander of her Miranda rights.
Yes, sir.
You informed her of her chemical test rights regarding a blood test.
Yes, sir.
You took her into custody and transferred her to the U of M hospital in Ann Arbor.
Yes, sir.
And that's where the blood draw was administered, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she was left in custody of the hospital for further medical tests, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. At what point during all of this did you go back to the crash site on the exit ramp, if ever?
I don't know if I ever did, due to the fact there was nobody inside the vehicle. The vehicle was brought back to my location prior to me departing for U of M to do the blood draw.
What do you mean the vehicle was brought back to your location? Where was that?
The mobile gas station.
Okay.
As I stated, the vehicle was pulled out by the tow truck, and then I asked the tow truck driver to bring the vehicle to me so I could to look at the vehicle.
Okay, so when you were inspecting the vehicle and you said you went into the driver's seat, that was at the gas station then?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. Now, would you agree the car was totaled and could not have been driven by anyone after the crash at the exit ramp?
I think a reasonable person would believe that that vehicle could no longer be driven, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, now, in terms of your interaction with my client, Ms. Alexander, she did provide you with her valid Michigan driver's license, right?
Yes, sir, according to my report.
Yep. She answered your questions when you were trying to determine who or what caused the crash.
Yes, sir.
She voluntarily took the field sobriety test.
Yes, sir.
She voluntarily submitted to a PBT upon your
Yes.
request.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there's really no dispute that was above the legal limit, although typically that's not admissible into evidence. We have no problem saying that if you recall that PBT was 0.148.
Yes, sir, according to my report.
She acknowledged her chemical test rights and consented to a blood test, correct?
Yes, sir.
She acknowledged her Miranda rights and agreed to speak with you.
Yes, sir.
She was taken into custody and transferred to the U of M hospital without incident.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. At the hospital, the blood draw was taken without incident, correct?
Correct, sir.
At no point did she ever resist arrest or fail to comply with your requests or orders. Is that
No, sir. She did everything that I asked her to.
okay? Thank you, sir. Now, statements made by my client to you. You questioned Ms. Alexander about what happened, right?
Yes, sir.
And she told you that she was drinking alcohol at Powell's Pub in Ypsilanti, right, before the accident?
According to my report, yes.
And I'm assuming you agree your report is accurate? Is that true?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And you've written maybe thousands of police reports, I assume. Is that correct?
Probably at this point, sir, yes.
Okay, that's a lot. She told you she met some guy at the bar who...
Because he's testifying. This is cross-examination, and he's being forceful on purpose because you're trying to just make your point. You just want the witness to agree with you and move on. That's it. That's the way it's done. He's really doing a nice job.
was driving her vehicle when the crash occurred, right?
That is correct.
Okay, she told you she didn't know his name, but she described him as a light-skinned black male. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
She told you that she was not the one driving the vehicle at the time of the crash, right?
Yes, sir.
And in other words, she told you she was the passenger and not the driver.
That's what she explained, yes.
Okay. Now, you responded to dispatch after the vehicle crash had occurred, so you did not personally witness the vehicle crash, correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, you did not witness who was driving the vehicle at the time of the crash, correct?
That would be correct.
And so, just to be clear, you did not witness Miss Alexander at any point in time sitting in the driver's seat of the vehicle or driving the vehicle.
That is correct.
Okay, did you take photographs of the vehicle at the crash site or at any time during your investigation?
I do not recall.
Okay, the only reason I asked because I didn't see any attached to the police report.
So then I must not have, no.
Okay, did you complete a UD10 crash report? And the only reason I ask is because, if you'll believe me, the police report says a crash report was completed, but I did not see one attached to the police report. So I'm just asking if you did that. UD10.
I did do a UD10.
Okay.
The serial number just must not be indicated on my report.
Okay, there is a serial number indicated, but I didn't see it. But that's fine. So you did complete a UD10 crash report. Okay. I have no further questions for the trooper at this time. Thank you.
Any redirect, Mr. Riddell?
Not at this time.
Thank you. May this witness be excused for the time being.
For the time being, but I ask that he not go far, that he stay
Thank
on
you.
the call and just mute his microphone for now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Your next witness, please.
At this time, the people call Cody Benz to the stand.
Oh, he's dressed.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, look at you. Sorry, Judge.
Thank you. Sir, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You may lower your hand. Your witness, Mr. Riddell.
Thank you, Judge. All right. Good afternoon, sir. Would you please state your name for the record?
Good afternoon. My name's Cody, C-O-D-Y, Benz, B-E-N-S.
And Mr. Benz, what is your occupation?
I'm a communications operator for the Washington County Sheriff's Office.
So in layman's terms, that mean you answer 911 calls?
I answer 911 calls for the county and dispatch police resources.
Okay. And were you working on December 12th of 2021?
Yes, I was.
Now, on that night, did you speak to a caller who identified herself as Christina Alexander?
I did, yes.
All right. And Have you listened to that call?
I have.
All right. And is it an accurate depiction? Is it an accurate recording of your conversation with that caller at that night?
Yes.
All right. Has it been edited, altered, or changed in any way? All
That's my knowledge, no.
right. So would you say it's an accurate depiction of what it's purporting to be?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions for Mr. Benz.
Thank you, Mr. Bannis. Any questions for Mr. Benz?
No, I don't. And I appreciate his presence today, and I have no objection to admission of the 911 call, given the foundation that has been laid.
Okay. Thank you. Then in that case,
And that's a good
Your Honor,
thing.
I'm going to play the 911. I'm going to move to admit and publish the 911 call at this time. If I could please have the screen sharing so I can share the audio.
It should be available to you.
Oh, yep, it is. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
She testifies later too, but the 911 call, all this other stuff, it was foundation. You had to hear the story, but the 911 call is fantastic.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benz.
And I'm going to ask that Mr. Benz stay for just a moment, just to confirm that nothing goes sideways.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Your Honor, I'm going to play the 911 call. Please let me know if everybody can hear it as well.
On 911, where is your
Can the court hear the call and the audio as well?
Definitely.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
emergency?
It's right across the close. It's close to the where the
Okay,
right where the
94 off ramp in Rossville.
I'm sorry.
Calling about the car crash there at 94 in Rossville.
It's really close to the I would say the right at where
You know,
I guess.
Okay, is that a yes? Okay, just answer my question. Yes or no? Are you calling about the crash at the eastbound 94 off ramp at Rossville? Or something else?
No, sir.
this 911 operator is fantastic. It's my favorite part. We're all losing our minds, but he will say exactly what you're thinking.
No, sir.
Okay, what are you calling? What's going on then?
I'm calling because I was trying to get off the interstate, and unfortunately, it actually hit me into the actual.
What hit you? What are we talking about?
Nothing actually hit me. I just hit the unfortunately, I just hit the
Don't call me fat, man. Don't call me fat. It's a French word.
Okay, you're getting off 94. Did you get into a crash?
No, I didn't get into a crash. I just hit.
Coming off the highway?
Yeah, I came off coming off the highway, and I hit the shovel. Like I guess you would want to call it.
You hit a shovel?
I don't think I would consider hitting the shovel, but I hit, like, you know, the debris.
You hit what debris? I don't know what you're talking about.
So I
Debris
hit.
from the crash that's out there?
So what I hit was, like, I guess. God, I don't even know how to explain it. I just hit debris where people normally just hit. That's it.
Okay, well that makes zero sense. I don't know what you're saying. Okay. Are you?
I'm trying to make it seem as best as I can, but like I hit a bunch of like.
I don't want you to make it seem any less or more than what it is. Just tell me what happened.
When I got off the interstate, I hit a lot of.
Were you going east side or west side of 94?
Yeah, I hit a lot of 94, and I hit a lot of 94. I guess you could say debris.
Don't guess. Just tell me what you hit.
To me, it looked like just a bunch of. When I say debris, it's probably not debris. It's just really just like I guess, God, I don't even know how to explain it.
Okay. Are you injured? Did you hit your head or?
Well, no, I didn't hit my head at all. And no, it was just it was just myself.
Anything like that?
No, it was just myself. It was just myself whatsoever.
Okay. Where's your vehicle right now? I know that you're calling from the oil shop there at 2120.
Yeah, I walked to here.
Where's your vehicle right now? Is it in the
My
ditch there at
vehicle?
the off ramp?
It's off the, it's off the off ramp.
Okay.
There's no close to anything that needs to, it's like nothing that would like hurt itself.
Okay. So
I just hit a lot. Honestly, I hit a lot of like.
Stop talking for a second. Let me ask you a question. So when I asked you right out of the gate if you were calling about the crash at eastbound 94, the off ramp at Rawsonville, the answer is you're the one that in the crash?
No, not at all. No, I'm not in the crash.
Did you leave your vehicle off the off ramp on 94 at Rawsonville?
No, not at all. I've been there since until I got here.
And where is your car right now?
My car is pretty much, it's not off Rawsonville, but it's kind of right off to the side of it.
At 94?
I wouldn't say it was 94, but it could be.
Did you get off of eastbound 94?
I didn't get off eastbound 94. I came here just so that, like, I could try to call you guys.
I understand that. When you were driving your car, were you on eastbound 94 and then took your car off of the road to get out, or off the highway to get onto Rawsonville?
Oh, no, sir. No, sir.
Okay. So where is your car?
My car is pretty much in the midst of a bunch of a mess.
They're going to need you to respond. Okay. What's your name?
My name is Christina Alexander.
Spell your first name for me.
CHRISH Cheyenne.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else in the store right now?
Store or in my car?
No, in the store that you're calling from right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to talk to him?
Yeah, if I could for a hot second.
Hello?
Hi. Are you the shopkeeper there?
You said,
Or staff, employee, whomever, somebody that works there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the gas station, yeah.
Okay. Don't let her leave because she's probably our suspect in the crash. Okay. So don't let her leave. We'll have a deputy out there shortly. Okay.
I got you. Oh, you got the address?
I mean, don't keep her, restrain her or anything, but try to make sure she doesn't leave, if you could, please. Okay.
I got you for sure. But
All
do you
right.
got do you got the address for the gas station?
Yeah, you're at 2120 Rawsonville?
Yeah.
Yep. We'll have them on the way, okay?
I got you.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So, Your Honor, so I noticed in the chat that the defendant said she was not able to hear well. I don't know if did you see that, Mr. Banis?
Well, you know what I'll say is I reviewed the 911 call with my client previously, so we have no objection to proceeding.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Already.
Okay, and it was the same call that I sent to you. If
Absolutely.
Okay,
No
thank
problem.
you. Okay, good.
Well, I have a question. I'm not certain how all of a sudden she couldn't hear it. It was very loud.
Yeah. Christina, what's going on? Can you hear what's going on?
I'm having a really hard time hearing you guys. I just wanted to make sure I let you guys know. I was able to hear perfectly fine, Your Honor, sir, earlier, but then something happened with my phone. So I just wanted the court to be able to know that.
Okay.
Could, Your Honor, if I may, Christina, could you hear the 911 call that you and I listened to previously, or no?
Yes, sir, I could. I just couldn't hear it very well, but I could hear it. I just wanted to make sure you all could hear me as well.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, I have nothing further for Mr. Benz at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Bannis, do you have anything for Mr. Benz?
Yes, a few quick questions. So, Mr. Benz, was that you taking the call?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so
Oh, I didn't realize that. That is actually him. He was fantastic. I'd like to shake his hand. That makes zero sense, which is on my thumb. I absolutely loved.
you know, at one point my client said she hit a shovel. Did that seem odd to you?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. At one point you said, I don't know what you're talking about. You also said that makes zero sense. Would you agree that what Ms. Alexander was stating was pretty much nonsensical?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Anything further from you, Mr. Burdell?
No, Judge, no redirect.
Thank you. May Mr. Benz be excused.
Thank you.
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you for coming here today, Mr. Benz. It is much appreciated, and I really appreciate your classy attire. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You may call your next witness, Mr. Burdell, or recall whoever you need to recall.
Thank you, Judge. This time the people recall Trooper Riom.
Trooper Riom, you're still under oath, sir. You may proceed, Mr. Burdell.
Thank you, Judge. Now, Trooper, were you able to hear the 911 call we just played?
Yes, sir, I was.
Could you recognize the caller?
Yes, sir, I did.
How did you and who did you recognize it as?
Miss Christina Alexander.
How did you know?
One, by her voice, and two, by the fact that she was asked to spell and give her name.
Okay. I have nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
No follow-up. Thank you.
People rest.
I have some questions, please. Well, I had questions. I'm going to ask it anyway. But you say you got into the vehicle to test the seat, and you could not fit into the seat, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall, and you may not, but do you recall what type of lever was used to move? Was it a manual or an automatic lever?
I don't recall, ma'am.
All right, thank you. That's the only question that came up for me. Any questions based on that, Mr. Burdell?
I do have a question, Judge. Trooper, do you recall the tow truck driver's height?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not recall, but I remember that if it was short enough to where he was possibly driving, that I wouldn't even have got into the vehicle to check the seat.
Okay.
So he must have been at least my height.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you.
May I briefly ask, Your Honor?
Yes. I was going next.
Trooper, I'm sorry. I think you answered this already, but I don't find it in my notes. How tall are you?
5'11".
So would you agree that anyone less than 5'11", well, it's kind of a strange situation. So you went into the seat and it was pushed forward enough so that you feel like at 5'11", you could not have driven the vehicle where the seat was located at the time you entered it. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, so, I mean, to be fair, anyone who's less than 5'11" could have driven a vehicle where the seat was located?
To be fair, I think that the reason I documented in my report is because that the seat was so close that anybody that was 5'11" or even 5'8" would not have been able to drive that vehicle, or 5'5" for that matter, because it was so close to the steering wheel. The reason that I documented the way that I did is because she explained that the driver who was driving that vehicle was around my height. That's why I wanted to get into the vehicle. Now, because since the driver that she stated was driving the vehicle was roughly my height, and I would not feel comfortable driving that vehicle, Therefore, the driver that she explained was driving that vehicle would not be able to drive that vehicle either.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why the defense attorney was saying, oh, she wasn't making any sense and went all the way. So he bought into my client's completely intoxicated. In fact, she's out of her mind. She's making no sense. She makes no sense in the 911 call. That is the defense strategy that he chose, and I think it was wise because then it explains all that stuff away.
No further questions, and
1 second, please. All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Nothing from the people.
Thank you. All right. Any further witnesses, Mr. Riddell?
No, Your Honor. Now the people rest.
All right. Thank you, Trooper Riam. You may want to stay around just in case you're called in rebuttal. But is that true, Mr. Riddell?
Yes, I would ask that the trooper, as the OIC, stick around on for the rest of the case.
Thank you. Mr. Banis?
defense calls the defendant, Christina Alexander. She's very aware that she does not have to testify, but she wishes to do so.
Oh, here we go.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes,
This
Your
is
Honor.
your opportunity to decide whether you want to testify or not. It's up to you. If you choose to testify, you have an absolute right to remain silent, and the prosecutor cannot comment on that. But if you do take the witness stand, then he'll have an opportunity to cross-examine you, and anything you say can, and in all likelihood, will be used against you. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Are you choosing to waive your right and take the stand today?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Banis.
Thank you, Judge. Christina, on the night of Saturday, December 11th.
I didn't swear her.
Oh, yeah, we got to
Please
do
raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you
Yeah,
swear or
tell the
affirm that the testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Banis.
Christina, on the night of Saturday, December 11th, 2021, and into the early morning of Sunday, December 12th, 2021, so in other words, after midnight, were you at Powell's Pub on North Huron Street in Ypsilanti, Michigan? And if so, were you drinking alcohol at the pub?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. At that time, where did you live? What was the address of your residence?
My residence was 1872 Timber Ridge in Ypsilanti, Michigan, 48198.
Is that near Ford Lake?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it near the west side or east side of Ford Lake? Or in the middle?
I'm not really sure. I just know the lake was behind my apartment.
Okay. We'll get back to that. Now, so you're drinking alcohol at the pub. If you were to drive from Powell's Pub to your home on Timber Ridge, would you need to travel on the highway I-94, yes or no?
No.
Okay. Now, the accident occurred on the Rawsonville Road exit of I-94, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, how long have you lived in Ypsilanti?
At that address, I believe I was there for about almost 3 years at that time.
All right. If I were to show you a Google map that has the pub, your home address at the time, and the Rawsonville Road exit, would you be able to competently testify as to the accuracy of that map?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Your Honor, I would like to show my client a demonstrative exhibit. I think it's important and relevant of where these locations are. I provided it to the prosecution. It's simply a Google map that I'd ask I'd be able to admit as a demonstrative exhibit.
Any objection?
No, Judge, it has been shared with me. No objection.
All right, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I'm going to try to do this. Okay, I believe I'm currently sharing my screen showing a map. Do you see that, Ms. Alexander?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you see my cursor moving here?
Yes, sir, I can.
Would you agree that this is the approximate location of the pub?
Yes, sir.
And this is Huron Street, right?
Yes. It's kind of hard for me to see, but yes, I can.
Okay. And then over here, would you agree this is the Rawsonville Road exit on I-94 where the accident occurred?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now in between those two locations, would you agree that your residence is somewhere, you know, I don't have it pinned, but it's Timber Ridge Road, somewhere around Ford Lake, right?
Yes, sir. Off South Grove Street.
So here's South Grove. This I didn't plan on this, but this says the Lakeshore Apartments. So regarding Ford Lake here on the map, can you pinpoint more or less accurately where was your residence at the time?
Yes, it was further, I don't know if you guys are able to see, but it was further up, still off of South Grove Street, but it was closer. It wasn't near Lakeshore Apartments. It was above it.
Okay. Now, if you were driving home from the pub up here on Huron Street directly to your home, would you need to go to the Rawsonville Road exit on I-94?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So that basically, I would respectfully submit pinpoints of locations. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen on that.
We might know too much about Washington County.
After the accident on the Rawsonville Road exit of I-94, did you walk to the mobile Exxon gas station?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And you own a gray, or you own or owned a gray Nissan Sentra at that time, right?
Yes, sir.
And you don't dispute that your vehicle was the one that was involved in this crash, right?
I do not dispute.
Okay. Now, that incident date, did you drive your vehicle to Powell's Pub before? In other words, did you drive to the pub?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. What time, if you remember, did you arrive at the pub?
I arrived at the Powell's Pub around 12 o'clock.
12 a.m.?
So December the 12th at midnight.
She was ready to party.
After drinking alcohol at the pub, did you drive your vehicle from the pub to any location whatsoever?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. Did someone else drive you from the pub to another location in your vehicle?
Yes, sir.
What specifically do you remember about leaving the pub in your vehicle that early morning?
I remember that when I was leaving, I was in the passenger seat, and an acquaintance was in the driver's seat that was going to drive me to my house.
Had you met
an acquaintance? What the hell's going on here? I haven't seen this part. Oh, good Lord. Here we go.
that person before?
I did not.
So someone was driving you home that night?
Yes, and he said that their cousin or his cousin would follow. That way he would be able to get me home and then have a ride home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you remember, and you know, you and I have discussed, we want you to be very clear on what you remember and what exactly you don't remember. Because there's no dispute you were drinking that night, right? So
correct.
Do you remember being in the vehicle when when you left the pub?
I remember I was in the passenger side when we left the Powell's Club. Or bar.
Okay. Do you have any recollection of the actual drive, before the accident? Yes or no?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. What is the next thing you remember after being in the passenger seat leaving the pub? Like literally the next thing you remember?
The next thing that I remember was waking up in the passenger seat. I had glass all over me, and it was very dark, and I didn't understand what was happening.
Okay. Your Honor, I have several exhibits. I don't think it's going to take a long time, but I would like to, all of these have been shared with Mr. Burdell quite a while ago. I would like to show my client a photograph, share my screen at this time. This would be Defense Proposed Exhibit B.
All right.
Was there a
visual aids
proposed
here.
exhibit A?
Oh, that was the demonstrative exhibit, the Google map, Your Honor. And I guess I would request that exhibit be admitted into evidence and published.
No objection as to Exhibit A.
Okay. Any objection to exhibit B?
Perhaps we could lay a little foundation before.
Sure.
And I suppose if it's the same for all of the photographs, we can just lay the foundation for all of those at the same time, just kind of save us and expedite the process a little bit.
This one's unique, so I'll lay the foundation now for this.
Okay.
So, Ms. Alexander, at any point in time, did you locate any glasses in the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell us about those glasses and whose they were to your knowledge. That's it. Please tell us about those glasses.
Okay. My sister brought me to the impound to take a look at my vehicle, and that's when I took the pictures, and I also found the individual's glasses in my vehicle.
And whose glasses are those, if you know, and if you know, how do you know?
I know it was the individual that drove me because he was wearing them that evening.
Okay. So at this point, I'd like to approach the witness, so to speak, with a photograph of these glasses.
Mr. Burdell?
No objection, Judge. People stipulate to the authenticity of this exhibit.
All right. Ms. Alexander, what is this? Can you see this photograph?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, what is this, and did you take this photograph?
Those are the glasses that I found in my vehicle, and it's the glasses that the acquaintance that drove my vehicle had on.
Okay, and who took this photograph?
I took the photograph.
Okay, and is this an accurate representation of the glasses of the driver of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay, move.
So it was a light-skinned black dude, like kind of like Elton John.
To admit Defense Exhibit B and publish.
Any objection?
I'm not buying.
You're muted, Mr. Burdell.
No objection, Judge.
Ms. Alexander, where are these glasses now?
I have them at my house. I kept them as evidence.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. Christina, did you at any time after the crash on the exit ramp drive or attempt to drive the vehicle away from the scene of the accident?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you do anything? Did you get into the did you get into the driver's seat at any point after the accident?
No, sir.
Did you try to turn the headlights on?
I tried to turn the headlights on.
Okay, so that would have been from the driver's seat, wouldn't it?
Correct.
Okay, so you did go into the driver's seat. Is that true?
Correct. To turn on the lights because it was dark.
Okay. And were you able to turn on the lights if you remember?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. And so why, if you remember, were you trying to turn on the lights?
Because I couldn't see anything and I was trying to figure out where I was.
Do you recall that when you tried to turn on the lights, did the engine turn on?
I don't recall, no.
Okay. Is this a key ignition or a push button ignition?
It's a push to start.
Okay. What was the state of the vehicle at the time?
At the time, the windshield there was glass all over me. The windshield was kind of concaved in. And I really couldn't tell much of the rest. I just knew that it was in bad shape.
Okay. And then you walked over to the gas station, which was nearby, right?
Correct. It was the nearest gas station that I could get to.
Okay, and you called 911? Remember?
Yeah, I do not remember making a 911 call. I remember that there was a gas station attendant there, and I asked him that could he call 911. I've been in an accident.
Now, before trial today, I played you that 911 call that we heard today, right?
Correct.
What was your reaction to that?
I don't remember anything, and I did cry a little bit because I don't remember any of that.
You don't remember making the 911 call, right?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay.
That to me is plausible. It's the interpretation that matters.
Your Honor, at this point, I have proposed defense exhibits C, D, E, F, and G. I would like to, these have been produced to the prosecutor. I would like to show each one of these to Ms. Alexander by sharing my screen. The foundational requirements will suffice for all of them. I'm going to ask some of those questions in advance. So I'll do that now. Ms. Alexander, after the vehicle crash, did you at any point in time have an opportunity to take photos of the vehicle?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you repeat that last one?
Did you take photos of the vehicle after the crash?
Yes, sir, I did.
When and where did you take those photographs?
I was given information that it was at a towing company, and then my sister drove me there to take all the photos that have been provided.
Okay,
She does, but the theory is she didn't know what she was saying. So that's why he's pushing hard for, oh, my client was out of her mind. It is consistent. Look, you're saying, I don't believe it for 1 second, but you're saying my client wasn't driving. So then you can say she's as out of her mind as you want. She's not violating this code provision, which is to be out of your mind and driving. They're resting it all on that.
You actually provided those photos to me, right?
Yes, sir, I did.
But she doesn't admit that she's
I'm going
alone.
to show you, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 photos. And for efficiency purposes, I'm going to ask you the same questions about each photo.
Your Honor, the people have no objection to these photos. I think the foundation's been successfully laid.
Thank you. Are you moving to admit then?
Good point,
Yes,
Ben.
I'm moving to admit defense exhibits C, D, E, F, and G.
They're admitted.
Ms. Alexander, is this one of the photos we were just describing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is this well, let's see. Maybe I'll just move on. Let's see.
It's okay. I wanted to see.
Oh, okay. I have sent these to the court. Now that they've been admitted, I think Your Honor should be able to have copies of them. Let me see. Share screen. This is defense exhibit D. Let me, Your Honor, you have these photos. I'm going to focus on, let's see, this one here. Ms. Alexander, can you see this photograph?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is one of the photos that you took at the impound lot, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Do you have now? You're saying you were the passenger in the vehicle, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any recollection? And if you don't, it's okay. We're just trying to figure out what you remember and what you don't. Do you have any recollection of hitting your head on the windshield here?
I'm trying.
I do not.
I'm just looking to forward them.
Okay.
So I can't see them. I want to see color.
Your Honor, is there anything I can do regarding these exhibits? I have submitted them to the court by email.
No, I was just getting them from my recorder.
Okay, good.
Printing them for me when I want to see the color photos.
Okay. So if I haven't done so already, I'm moving to admit and publish. Thank you. Now, Ms. Alexander, after the accident, you were transported to the U of M hospital, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And were you seen and treated by doctors on December 12th, 2021?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to share my screen on a very simple exhibit regarding a medical record that the people have already stipulated to in exchange for us stipulating to the blood alcohol content.
Is that correct, Mr. Burdell?
Yes, Judge.
Thank you. You may do so.
Thank you. Ms. Alexander, do you see this document, Michigan Medicine, U of M?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so would you agree that you were treated at the hospital on December 12th, 2021 at around 8:02 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, move to admit and publish this exhibit.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
Right, shall be admitted. And this will be H?
That should be yes, that's H. I think that's my last exhibit. Ms. Alexander, what were you treated for at the hospital that day? And what was the result?
They
I'm
treated
going
me
to
for
objection
being in a
as
car
to,
accident.
there's an objection.
Objection.
Hold on, Christy.
So, there's an objection as to the result that requires hearsay evidence from a doctor who's not here.
You mean it requires testimony from a doctor, otherwise it's hearsay?
Yes, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Banis?
Well, the people have already stipulated to admission of the medical records, which even include documents I haven't submitted, but I will withdraw the question and rephrase. I think my client can testify to her personal knowledge of what she was treated for, but I will not ask her about any medical conclusions.
And I won't object to that, that line of questioning.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Christina, were you treated for any head injuries?
Yes.
Were you released that same day from the
Yes, sir.
hospital?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have any substantial injuries?
There was an abrasion on, I guess a bruising, and some of my hair was taken off on this side, on the right side of my head.
Okay. Just to be candid, do you agree that you were too drunk to drive yourself that night?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you drive your vehicle that night or that early morning from the pub?
No, sir, I did not.
Were you the passenger?
Yes, sir.
Since that vehicle crash, what have you done to address your sobriety?
Objection as to relevance. We're not here for anything she's done to address it or remedy the situation. We're only here for this driving incident.
I anticipate an objection, and that's fair, but Your Honor, I do believe it goes to my client's credibility. She is here testifying in her defense, admitting that she was too drunk to drive, but she was the passenger. The 12-step is very significant,
Oh,
and
I'm muted
it go.
again.
You could put
Damn it.
whatever weight you want on her testimony, but part of her 12-step process, or anyone's 12-step process, is admitting when one is wrong, taking responsibility for one's actions. So I do think it is helpful to the trier of fact as to her credibility.
I'm going to agree with the prosecution that the
It was
issue of
brilliant.
whether she has addressed her sobriety is not relevant. I understand your argument that if she is adhering to the 12-step philosophy, then part of that is honesty around sobriety and all other issues and accepting responsibility. So I get that, but I don't believe that that is an after the fact thing that I don't believe I'm going to accept for sobriety with respect to that date.
Okay, fair enough, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you so much. Christina, I don't have any other questions for you unless, just to be really candid with the court here, you and I have discussed this case a lot. Is there anything else you want to tell the judge? I think we've addressed anything, but do you have anything else to say? Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Burdell.
Thank you, Judge. All right, so Ms. Alexander, we've had quite a number of hearings together. This is my first time to actually talk to you directly. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to try to be just as respectful as Mr. Banis. If you don't understand one of my questions, I'm not trying to gotcha or trick you. I may have just worded it poorly, which I do sometimes. So please let me know, and I'll be happy to rephrase it in a better way. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So isn't it true that you can't remember anything about this driver except for his race and his general height, correct?
And that he was wearing glasses.
Okay. But isn't it true that you did not tell anything about, when you spoke to the trooper, you did not mention anything about the glasses, correct?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. And where did you take that picture of the glasses, which are in Exhibit B?
I took those at my house.
Okay, looks like that's kind of a nice table there. They're sitting on just kind of at your own home?
Yes, in my own home.
Okay. Are those prescription or what are they?
They are not prescription glasses.
Okay. Are those real diamonds or what are they?
They're not real diamonds. I guess costume glasses, I would call them, or like just glasses.
Okay, so it's just plastic then, not diamonds or like cupids or anything?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you testified today that you did not attempt to get into the car and drive off after the crash, correct?
Correct, I did not, sir.
Now, why did you tell the trooper that you did at the time?
I don't recall telling him that.
Okay. And isn't it also true that
I missed that question. What was the question?
Why she told the trooper at the time that she did attempt to drive the car off?
Okay. Thank you.
And isn't it also true that you don't even remember calling 911?
Correct, I do not recall.
Okay. So it sounds like it'd be fair to say that you're missing quite a lot of this night, correct? In your own memory? Okay. Now, these hospital records. So isn't it true that you also had the blood draw at U of M Hospital?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And you would agree that these medical records that are submitted, it only just says that you were treated at the U of M Emergency Department on that date and time, correct?
From what is submitted, correct.
Okay. So the exhibits that are before the court, right?
Correct.
And you would agree it doesn't say anything about a head injury or anything like that, just correct?
Correct. What's submitted, correct.
Okay. Your Honor, if I may have a moment to confer with my officer in charge, just in the chat.
You may. And you can go and break out room if you need. It's up to you.
Well, we'll see what his answer is, depending. But I appreciate it, Judge.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
No
All right.
follow-up and defense rests.
I have questions.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. Go ahead.
So first of all, ma'am, you say you found the glasses at at the tow truck with the towing company. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
You didn't take any pictures of the glasses inside of the vehicle?
I did not.
Where inside of the vehicle are you saying you found those, ma'am?
They were in the back seat.
Where in the back seat?
Back seat driver's side.
On the seat itself?
Yes.
I'm looking through some exhibits here. One moment. I got to find the one I want to refer you to.
Okay.
Mr. Bannis, could you pull up Exhibit G for me, please?
I think it's this one, Your Honor.
I don't think so. We're in the moon.
Oh, is this not? Okay, let me stop that. Exhibit G is the one of the back seat, right?
All right.
Okay. Let me try that again. I thought
Thank you.
I was so happy I did it correctly, but apparently not. Is that working?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what I'm looking for. Thank you. As I look at this exhibit here, the seat. Well, first of all, ma'am, did you change any of the seats when you went out to the towing company?
No, Your Honor, I did not.
So the passenger seat in this particular picture is leaned backwards. Did you?
Yes.
Did you do that when you went to the tow truck company?
I did not do that. That's how I woke up in the passenger seat.
And in relationship to the seatbelt, the red object that you see in the back seat there, can you tell me where you found these glasses?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, the red object.
There's a seatbelt buckle. Can you see my pointer?
Oh, yes, ma'am. It was behind the driver's seat to the, I guess, to the left of that red buckle.
The left of the red buckle. Okay. Oh, if you're looking at the buckle from behind the car, you're referring to left or from?
Yes, Your Honor. I apologize. Yes.
Did you find anything else in the vehicle, ma'am?
Nothing else that I had in there. Just that what's in the picture was still left in there like glass.
Did you know you indicated earlier during your testimony that the cousin was supposed to follow you all?
Correct.
Did you know who this cousin was?
I did not.
You were able to hear the 911 call, correct?
Correct.
And you have no recollection of placing that call?
No, Your Honor.
You did hear in that call that you indicated that one moment. I was trying to get off the intersection and it hit me into the actual and then you sort of trail off. Do you recall saying that?
I do not.
Okay. And you also said I hit the shovel. Do you recall saying that?
I do not recall.
Do you recall how long from the time that you got to the gas station to the time that Trooper Riam got there?
I don't recall the time. How long it took him to get there, Your Honor?
Correct, from the time that you arrived there.
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall having a conversation with the gas station attendant when you were there?
I don't recall having a conversation with him. I just remember him coming outside of the gas station. His eyes were very big, and I told him, "Can you please call 911? I've been in an accident."
All right, I have no further questions. Mr. Banis, this is your witness. Any questions based on those?
Just relating to the glasses, Ms. Alexander, did you observe anyone at any time wearing those glasses?
Just the individual that drove me home, or that evening after I left.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Burdell?
Nothing, no follow-up, Judge.
I now have follow-up. You indicated you saw
Agreed,
the individual wearing these glasses. Do you recall how you met this individual?
Yes, ma'am. I met him at Powell's bar. I sat at a table with him and his cousin, and I had a few drinks with them. I paid for them myself. We stayed there until about 2 a.m., but I started to feel very, very unwell. It wasn't like I was intoxicated, but I felt really not well to drive.
What does not well mean, ma'am?
I just didn't feel like I was intoxicated. I kind of felt I didn't feel like myself. So I wanted
Did you smoke
to go
any
home.
glue?
In what way didn't you feel like yourself?
I was dizzier than I normally would be. I just knew that I didn't want to be at the bar anymore because at 1 it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I just didn't. I felt like something wasn't right, so I wanted to leave.
So these two individuals that you met at the bar, what one you've described as a light-skinned black male, the driver, correct?
Correct.
What about the second individual?
He was also light-skinned, African American too.
Okay. Do you frequent this bar regularly?
Yes.
Have you seen them there before?
I have not.
How did you end up sitting at a table with these two men?
They came up and were I was sitting at a table by myself watching pool to play the next game, and they came up and approached and started talking with me and conversating with me, so I spoke back.
Oh, good Lord. They were conversating. I mean, I know it's small, but I've had enough here.
How long were you at this table with these individuals?
For 2 hours.
Yep.
How did this, how did one individual end up driving you home?
I said that I didn't feel well enough to drive, and he said, "That's okay. I can drive you home and my cousin can follow."
All right. I've asked a lot of questions. Mr. Banis.
Nothing, Your Honor. I think those were all directly on point. Thank you.
Mr. Burdell.
I have nothing further at this time for this witness.
All right, thank you. All right. Mr. Banis, any further witnesses from you, sir?
No, Your Honor. Defense rests ready for closing argument.
Mr. Burdell, any rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor. The people like to call Trooper Riom for one question for rebuttal.
All right, you may do so.
Thank you, Judge. All right. Thank you, Trooper. So, Trooper Riom, when you spoke to Miss Alexander previously, did she mention anything about this other driver's cousin?
No.
Is this the first time you're hearing about it?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Banners.
Nothing further.
Well, I have a question, Trooper Rion.
Yes, ma'am.
Banners, if you could please place Exhibit G back up, please.
Exhibit G, which is the back seat, sharing my screen.
Before you place it up, Trooper Rion, do you have a recollection of the car that day, sir?
Thank you, Kat.
I do.
All right. Did you take any pictures of it yourself?
No, I did not.
In Exhibit G, we can go ahead and place it up. He's seen it already anyway. In Exhibit G here, you see that the back seat is let down. Do you recall it was that way when you were in the vehicle?
I do not recall, Your Honor.
Thank you. That is all the questions I have. Any questions from you, Mr. Burdell?
Judge, I may have missed it. Trooper Hume, did you find a pair of glasses in the back seat?
I did not.
Nothing further.
Mr. Bannis?
Nothing further.
Trooper Riam, did you look in the back seat or do a search of the vehicle?
I did do a search of the vehicle just for a UD91 purposes because the vehicle is being towed per our departmental policy. The vehicle has to be searched for any type of valuable items, but I do not recall locating any glasses inside the vehicle.
Can you say with any certainty whether they were there or not?
I cannot say with any certainty, no.
All right. Thank you. No further questions. All right. Anything else based on those questions, Mr. Burdell?
Nothing from the people.
Mr. Bannis?
No, Your Honor. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the opportunity.
All right. May Trooper Riam be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Trooper
Listen.
Riam. We appreciate your time today. What's your new role?
I'm a detective trooper working for Mantis narcotics team down in Monroe.
Oh, congratulations, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Take care.
Be safe,
You too.
Trooper. Thank you.
Closing arguments.
So, thank you, Your Honor. So, we've heard quite a bit today. And I think, frankly, so first of all, so the first issue I think I should address is the just jurisdictional issue. Rawsonville Road is the boundary to Washtenaw County and Ypsilanti Township. And I believe that the off-ramp is within this side of the county line. However, I want to bring up the actual statutory language. Under MCL
Jurisdiction
I'm
question.
familiar with it.
Okay, so the court has, but then just to make a record, the court has 1 mile
Yeah.
jurisdiction outside. So, so thank you. So I don't think the jurisdiction is an issue given the fact that this occurred on the county line. And Judge, so frankly, the defendant's story is simply not plausible, Your Honor. This story about this driver. And so I think just based on the 911 call, I think is the most, frankly, damning piece of evidence that was here today. And I think it's incredibly clear. She identifies where she was. She identifies herself by name. You can hear that she's incredibly intoxicated. And while I know that we have stipulated to the lab report, we've stipulated the fact that she's intoxicated, I think it's important that you can note in her voice the level of intoxication, the fact that she's just completely unaware of what's happening. She refers to, and then this is, I'm going to quote here several times, it hit me into the actual, she later says, nothing hit me, I hit, unfortunately, I hit. Later, I didn't get into a crash, I was coming off the highway and I hit a shovel. She refers to a shovel several times. I did this, I did that. It, which we don't know what it is, but it did this to me. It did that to me. She's describing what she did, and she's describing, at one point, she sort of describes debris. Feels like she has difficulty coming to that word, but she eventually describes debris. when speaking to the 911 operator, Mr. Benz, she very clearly states that she did not hit her head. She denied hitting her head at that time, which in that state, one would expect that she would. Yes, I hit my head, please, as is, I believe, is what being suggested by the defense exhibit with the window in the passenger side busted out. I think that's what is being implied. However, it's at the time she didn't say anything about hitting her head on 911. And frankly, Your Honor, she can't even spell her own name in this 911 call. She never says anything about another driver. I did this. I did that. There's nothing about another driver. And frankly, Judge, today was the first time we're hearing anything about this cousin. It wasn't in the police report. Exactly. It wasn't mentioned to Trooper Rion. It wasn't mentioned to the 911 operator. This cousin, this is the first time we're hearing about it. I also think it is very important, the seating position. Now, the trooper describes that the seat was pulled far up, way too close for him to be able to have sat in it and driven. Now, the only description we're able to get out of this gentleman, this mystery man who drove her home, is that he was a light-skinned African-American male who was about the trooper's height. Only later today did we find out, only after the fact.
I'm sorry, the awkward light-skinned black African-American male. This is funny.
Did the glasses come about? We didn't hear anything about the glasses at the time when she was talking to the trooper. So it's pretty clear based on that she was in the driver's seat, that she had driven this car. Now, if the court does believe this, frankly, this story that she's telling, at the time of the incident when she interviewed the trooper, she said that she got into the car and attempted to move it. And the trooper, as the trooper described from looking at the picture, is any sensible person, any reasonable person would agree that that car was not drivable. However, an incredibly intoxicated person is not a reasonable person. They may believe that they can drive it. And based on the defendant's own testimony to the trooper, she got back in the car and tried to drive it. And only because the car was damaged was she unable to. And so that alone, Your Honor, is drunk driving. The fact that she was in the car, that she was trying to drive off, that is drunk driving right there. So even if the court does believe that there was this mystery man, that is drunk driving. The trooper also testified to the fact that
it's actually an interesting and clever argument.
The tow truck driver, he didn't recall very well, but he did recall that the tow truck driver was about at least the trooper was at least his height, I believe he testified to. I believe he certainly would have remembered and noted if the driver was Ms. Alexander's height, who was 5'1". Now, let's take a look at defendant's testimony. She describes that, she doesn't need to take I-94 to get home. But again, based on that 911 call, she's clearly incredibly intoxicated, Judge. She can't even spell her own name. She has trouble word finding. She's slurred. She doesn't know where she's at. She's repeating herself. So a person in that state is going to have difficulty navigating their way home. And so I think the map, I think it's irrelevant, Judge. I think the fact that she got lost while she was drunk is the most likely explanation. And I'm highly suspicious of these glasses. These are a pair of cheap costume glasses, Judge. And so, frankly, and there's no evidence, but there's nothing beyond, there's really nothing that ties these glasses to the driver. They could have been purchased after the fact. It could have come from the tow truck driver. They could have been left there. And so they could have come from anywhere. The trooper testified that when they do inventory of a car, they see what's in there and they take anything of value. Upon a cursory glance, and I have to confess, when I looked at this exhibit, I thought these were some really expensive, diamond-encrusted, expensive jewelry. It's only upon Miss Alexander's testimony that I learned that they're just cheap costume jewelry. But regardless, it's certainly, even if the trooper knew that.
Oh, come on. You didn't think that they had real diamonds in it. Nobody thought that.
They were cheap costume jewelry. It's something that he would have inventoried and taken, at least noted in his report. He testified that he didn't see them there at all. And I think the positioning of the glasses in the car is relevant as well. If they were on the driver's face, which I believe
Leave it to my chat for a Huggy Bear reference. That's solid.
is what she's suggesting, that he was wearing them, they would have gone forward and ended up somewhere in the front compartment of the car. They would not have ended placed gently on the back seat of the car. Perhaps maybe in the wheel well or the footwell of the passenger seat, perhaps in the back ledge. Most likely would have gone forward and flown off his face and landed either on the dash, somewhere at his feet, or somewhere in the front. To have it just resting on the back seat, it doesn't make sense as to why they would end up in that particular location. And frankly, I put zero weight onto these glasses, and I frankly don't believe that they were, I think it's unlikely that they were, whoever the driver may be, I think it's unlikely that they would have been wearing it. I also would like to note that these are a bit tinted, at least they appear to me in this picture, so I don't know if this is something that you'd be wearing in the middle of the night after the bar is closed. So as to the medical records, I think the medical records also add nothing. The extent of the records just say that she was at University of Michigan Hospital, and that she was treated at the emergency department. There's also evidence in the record that that's where the blood was drawn. And so we don't know that there's anything beyond this other than the blood draw. This could be simply what it's referring to. There's nothing in here about a head injury or any treatment, or it just says she was at the hospital, which we know because that's where the blood was drawn. And so if I may have a moment, Your Honor.
You may.
She also mentioned, sort of jumping around here a little bit, so she also mentioned about getting into the front seat to turn the lights on because it was dark, which doesn't make a ton of sense. But then again, she was clearly highly intoxicated and doing unsensical behavior. However, there's nothing about this in the report. There's nothing about that from what Trooper Riom testified to. And frankly, she didn't even remember it until she was prompted by her own attorney's questioning. And so I think that's sort of an excuse that she's trying to find as to why the seat was pulled so far up, so Your Honor, based on the changing story, the new characters and the new evidence that's occurred since this time, the fact that the seat was in a position where only somebody who is 5'1" can be driving, just the first person narrative of the crash, Your Honor, it's very clear that this is a case where Miss Alexander was behind the wheel of this car and she crashed. Nothing further at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Bass.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, from day one in this case, the defense has been that my client was the passenger, and the prosecutor is very aware of that. So nothing today is new. My client was a passenger. There's no surprises in this case. There may have been some additional details that the people didn't hear before, but nothing's new here. Nothing is fabricated, trying to create something at the last moment. The glass,
other than the entire defense,
you would have to believe that my client was a really deceptive person to concoct this story about these glasses.
Oh, that's what I believe.
This is just one piece of the defense. It's not, the entire defense is not based on the glasses. My client told me she found these glasses in the car. She testified under oath that the driver was wearing these glasses. Whether they're prescription or not is irrelevant. This is just a piece of evidence that supports my client's testimony under oath that she was not the driver. They're not her glasses. She found them in the vehicle. There was no detailed inventory of the fact that the deputy may have missed them on a very dark morning where he shined his light at the vehicle. It's entirely consistent with the glasses. There was a very bad accident. I don't know if this driver was wearing the glasses or not, but they may have flown off and go in the back seat, or maybe they were already in the back seat. But these were not my client's glasses, and the driver was wearing these glasses before they left. So that's just one piece of the defense. Rawsonville Road exit. There's absolutely no reason, unless my client's telling the truth, that this vehicle had to go to Rawsonville Road exit to get her home. She's a victim here, maybe even been roofied. It's kind of scary. And she's embarrassed and scared about the whole incident, that she got herself into this position where she drank so much that she wasn't even able to drive herself home. And she got a ride from some stranger, which was led to this accident. And yeah, I agree with the prosecutor. If she's lying and she missed her and somehow she was so drunk that she had to get on I-94 and then said, oh, wait a minute, I got to get off at Rawsonville to circle back. But that's not what happened, Your Honor. Yeah,
it is.
The only purpose of the map was to show that there's no reason for her to get onto the highway if she was driving, which she was not. The vehicle photos. The car was totaled. And by the way, my client's been entirely candid with the court and the people.
No, she hasn't, but okay.
That she was too drunk to drive. We stipulated to the BAC lab report. From day one, our position was she wasn't driving, she was the passenger. The vehicle photo, the photos definitely show that the vehicle was totaled at the scene. My client was entirely candid about everything that she remembered. The 911 call, it's absolutely nonsensical. She's embarrassed by it. When I played it for her, she had no recollection of it. It's completely nonsensical. Even the 911 call operator said to her, I don't know what you're talking about. That makes zero sense. She said she hit a shovel. She's highly intoxicated. She admits that. She's embarrassed by it. That should, frankly, be given zero weight in terms of what actually happened, because after the fact, when she was sober, she was able to recollect exactly what she remembered and what she did not remember. And she was very honest about what she did not remember. But that 911 call is not, respectfully should not be given any weight, because it really truly is embarrassing for her and nonsensical what she was saying. Even the 911 call operator agreed that it made no sense what she was saying. The medical records. Yeah, she went to the hospital. She was treated for some sort of head injury. Frankly, it wasn't really that significant that required any treatment, but that's consistent with the fact that the photo of the vehicle has on the passenger side of the windshield, there's a hole where a passenger would have hit. If I was a prosecutor, I would say, hey, if she really was a passenger and hit her head on that windshield, her head would have been fractured. But that's not the way it works. If she did hit her head on that vehicle, she may have had significant injuries or she may have not. But she was treated for a head injury, which is consistent with what she's saying. The seating position. He absolutely cannot be found guilty of operating while intoxicated after the fact. That vehicle was completely totaled. She went into the driver's seat to turn on the light to see where she was. She was passed out in the passenger seat for a long time. She was just trying to figure out where she was. She didn't turn the engine on. And I have, if we have to brief this, I have a bunch of case law which shows basically if there was no possibility of a subsequent vehicle collision, for example, Your Honor, we have cases where a client is passed out, scary cases where someone's passed out with their foot on the brake and the engine running, that person could still be found guilty of operating while intoxicated because there's a substantial risk of a collision. The only thing preventing that vehicle from moving forward is the fact that that person's foot is on the brake. That's the complete opposite of this. The car was totaled. The engine was not on. All she did, if anything, was try to turn on the lights to see. So she's not guilty of operating while intoxicated after the fact. It all comes down to whether she was the passenger or not. The seating position, basically anyone apparently under 5'11" could have been driving that vehicle. I don't think that's dispositive at all. There was no follow-up investigation, despite the fact that our defense from day one has been that she was not the driver, to find out who this person was, to talk to anyone at the bar. So at the end of the day, Your Honor, it really comes down to my client's witness credibility. She's here to tell you exactly what happened and what didn't happen. And candidly, if she was driving, she would take responsibility, but she was not driving. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bordeaux?
So, Your Honor, I almost objected during the middle of Mr. Bannis's closing, but I decided to not and let him finish his argumentation. There was a line in there in sort of a discourse about being roofied and her being in fear. I would ask that is completely assuming facts not in evidence. I would ask that entire discussion about roofies be stricken from the record. There's no evidence to support that.
It's a fair point.
I don't believe that there's any evidence where she said that she may have been roofied. She did say that she wasn't feeling well. I believe the court gets to decide what it thinks about that testimony. So I'll take that into consideration, though, Mr. Bordeaux.
Understood. Thank you, Judge. So there are a few points I have. So the timeline about this case doesn't really make a ton of sense either. She's alleging that she's at the bar at closing time, so about 2 a.m. And then the trooper testified that he did the SFSTs about 6 or 7 a.m. That's a gap of 4 or 5 hours, which if she left from the bar, it would not have been that long of a gap, Your Honor. It would have been much quicker. So we have, as to the defense exhibits where it shows the damaged windshield, there's no specific evidence that a human head did this. There's no blood or hair or skin or anything on this windshield. It's just something busted out. This could have been a can of soup in the back seat busted out this window, or it could have been something on the road, or it could have been just the impact itself. This car is highly damaged, and so it could have been anything, Judge. And, there also is, from my look, it also looks like there was some damage to the driver's side as well. It looks like there's a hole above the steering wheel and glass in the driver's side footwell. And so I don't think that is entirely dispositive. This suggestion that, the people didn't follow up or do anything, how could we have? There's no names given, the vaguest of description that basically has half the men in the city of Ypsilanti covered, from this vague description, Judge. And so there's not really much there. And Judge, so perhaps what happened, Miss Alexander's missing a lot of time here. Perhaps there was a guy at the bar. Perhaps she did meet this gentleman. Perhaps she wanted him to take her home, but he was unable to, or he refused. She's got long gaps of her memory. Perhaps this is a concocted story where she remembers talking to this guy. She remembers wanting him to take her home. And then she wakes up in the car and then pieced the pieces together to get to, it must have been that guy that I met took me home. I would never drive drunk. I wouldn't do that. But everything else, Your Honor, nothing shows that there's another guy, another person in this car. It's very clear it was Miss Alexander driving. And so, Your Honor, the evidence is certainly beyond a reasonable doubt in this case that she is guilty of operating while intoxicated. There's no question about her intoxication, and it's very clear she was the driver. And it's very clear she was operating it, and it's very clear that it was in Ypsilanti Township. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. This case is certainly interesting. The bottom line for me is this. The prosecution has the burden of proof, Mr. Burdell. Although I agree with you about your assessment of the fact that she was highly intoxicated and they've stipulated to that. I agree with you that she placed a phone call in which she said she was driving, and that was my hugest issue and the most critical piece of evidence in this case as far as I'm concerned, because the trooper can't say whether she was driving. He didn't see it. So the best piece of evidence that the prosecution has is that particular phone call where she said that she was driving and she hit, which is what I questioned her about. I was trying to get off the intersection and it hit me into the actual and then it trails off. I hit a shovel. Then she says she didn't crash. And then she says I wouldn't consider that I had hit a shovel. Then he asked her very simple questions about where she is. And she says she hit debris, and she takes a long time to figure that out. It was a lot of nonsensical conversation going on. She couldn't even spell her own name. I agree with the prosecution that a lot of that I chalked up to simply being too drunk to be able to answer the questions. I don't think I've heard a conversation that disjointed and just nonsensical placed into evidence before. And you know, my initial reaction was, yes, she was driving. But then as I listened to and I hear more testimony about that particular day, I think that, you know, I agree with you that there's no way to follow up on such a vague description of an individual that does describe half the Black men in Ypsilanti Township, even if that's the area that we're talking about. But where my concern is and where the missing for me is this. The trooper had the opportunity to take pictures of the car, which in my opinion would have changed a lot of things for me if I knew exactly where that seat was, the passenger seat being in the position that it was in the pictures that were taken by Miss Alexander, causes me to have pause and to have some doubts about what had actually happened on that particular night. And I agree with you about your recitation of the facts as we have them in evidence, but we cannot engage in speculation about what happened. It is the prosecution's burden to prove what did happen. And the perhaps this happened or the perhaps that happened is not how this works. The prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she committed this offense. And in this particular case, they have to prove that she was, in fact, the driver of that vehicle. And although I may think that she was the driver of the vehicle, it has not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that she was the driver of that vehicle, because I have doubts about it when I look at the actual seat, when I look at the windshield in terms of what happened. There seemed to be a passenger or something in that car, and it's I cannot speculate as to what that was. I have to know what that was, at least beyond a reasonable doubt. And I'm just not there. And as to the glasses in the back seat of the car, because the trooper cannot say for certain that they weren't there, I have no proof as to where those glasses were or where they weren't. It is the burden of the prosecution to prove their case. And there just needs to be more follow-up with respect to the actual night of incidences or the day of incidences to document and evidence what is going on. The reality is you're correct about the timeline, this court does not know exactly when the accident happened. I don't know when the first call came in to say that there was an accident. So if we had the first call to say when the first person at least reported, we might have some additional information about when the accident happened so that I could be able to determine credibility a little bit more. I just don't have that particular piece of information as to whether it happened at 3 or whether it happened at 4 or whether it happened just at 6 o'clock or even at 7. I just don't have any information as to that. I have information as to when she made her call. However, she testified that she was apparently blacked out for a while. I don't know how long that was. And as a result, there's just too much missing in this case for me to determine beyond a reasonable doubt that she was the passenger that day. For that reason, I find that she is not guilty.
Thank you, Judge.
There you have it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome, ma'am. Please don't get behind any wheel of cars while you've been drinking anymore, and you should stay away from people you don't know, because I don't know what happened that day, and if you've been a victim, it sounds like you may have been a victim of more than just someone crashing your car. So.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Not guilty. I will say this for the defendant. I absolutely understand where the judge is coming from. It's a reasonable doubt. She's not even saying I believe her. She frankly just said I don't believe her, but I didn't get past reasonable doubt, which I think is a perfectly reasonable ruling here. But she's lucky she's not in front of Law Talk with Mike as a judge, because I would have rung her up. I didn't believe any of it. And I think also a perfectly reasonable ruling is guilty. Go. Because she's guilty. But I see where the judge did that. And it was fascinating to me to watch the comments here. There's lots of stuff. I think the prosecutor did a decent job with what he had. I really do. It's interesting. Nobody liked any of the witnesses. They didn't like the police officer, and they didn't like the defendant either. So it wasn't that. It was just literally evaluation of witnesses per se. Like you guys didn't really have like a dog in the fight. Like you care what the outcome is. But nobody was buying any of it. And I think there's something to that here. I think the defense attorney did a nice job creating reasonable doubt. I think his client is guilty of sin. I think even the judge thinks the client, the defendant's guilty of sin, but saying, it's a possibility. The one fact that makes me hesitate, and it bothered her too, is that you have that pattern on the glass on the passenger side. But the thing is, we don't even know if that's from the incident. Someone could have gone out there with a baseball bat after the fact. We don't have it. We don't have a time frame on that, and she said that we don't have pictures right after the tow truck driver took pictures of the vehicle. Now we're preserving what does the windshield look like when they're getting it. I mean, but even that you don't know if it wasn't messed with after the fact. I don't believe her for 1 second. She was driving home. She got lost. She was out of her mind, and she had a 1-car accident. That's what happened. I would convict her for it. I do not, however, fault the judge for not convicting her for it. It's certainly a reasonable ruling to say there's reasonable doubt here. She pretty much said, if I had to guess, she did it, but I'm not beyond reasonable doubt, and I think that's completely justified. And that's the system we deal with. That's the system we deal with. They investigate. I don't think anything untoward was going on from the law enforcement perspective. This guy doesn't remember a lot of it, but I've dealt with this. I was a prosecutor. I mean, these guys are investigating all sorts of stuff. This is an old case. This is an old, not exciting case where they find a car crumpled up in a ditch. I mean, it was insane. This woman would have had no trial, nothing to worry about. Why is she calling 911 from a store? And I know why, because she was out of her mind, drunk. But I mean, she could have just crawled off anywhere, just gotten home somehow and slept and then come back later. Yes, they might tow your car. Yes, you might get a ticket for leaving the scene. Yes, you might get other stuff, but you're not going to get a DUI. She came very, very close. Probably should have gotten a DUI. And I'm not knocking the prosecutor. There was not a lot of love for the prosecutor. I don't think he was terrible. I think he did a nice job and made the case with the facts he had. I really do. It would have been nicer if they had a picture, but after the fact, believe me, after you've dealt with thousands of these scenarios, it's very easy after the fact to say, oh, it would have been nice to have this or that or whatever. Of course. But I think the prosecutor made a case that you could convict on, and the judge chose not to. I don't blame the judge for that, but I think you could have. I would have. I would have said guilty. I just watched the whole trial. If that was before me, I would say I've seen enough. I don't believe her. It's beyond a reasonable doubt in my mind. But that is certainly. But I will also say it's certainly within the judge's discretion to go either way there and be justified. That's what you're looking at. So that was a super fascinating one. The 911 call was the fun part for me. I mean, it was just hilarious. But plus, her testifying with it, 911 was just so good, so good. Thank you for sending that to me. It bumped the other stream I had planned. Maybe I'll do that in the morning. Thank you all for coming out. I know that was a long one, but it was fascinating and it had a surprise ending. So I thought it was really, really cool. All right. I will see you all soon.